Essays on Untouchables and Untouchability, Political, by Babasaheb Ambedkar. Chapter 1 6. This struggle between the Hindus and the Untouchables constituted undoubtedly the main episode. But within this episode, there was another which, though of a smaller character, was yet full of significance. It was the struggle between the backward classes and the Untouchables. The representatives of the backward classes contended that the category known as depressed classes should not only include untouchables in the strict sense of the term, but should also include those classes which are economically and educationally backward. The object of those that wanted that not only the untouchables but also those who are educationally and economically backward shall also be given separate representation was a laudable one. In putting forth this contention, they were not asking for anything that was new. Under the reformed constitution that came into operation in 1920, the right of the economically and educationally backward communities was recognized in the two provinces of India, namely Bombay and Madras. In Bombay, the uh, Marathas and allied castes, and in Madras, the non-Brahmins were given separate representation on the only ground that they were economically and educationally backward. It was feared that if special representation was not given to those communities, they would be politically suppressed by the minority of high caste Hindus such as Brahmins and allied castes. There are many communities in other provinces who are kept in the same position and who need special political representation to prevent their being suppressed by the higher castes. It was therefore perfectly proper for the representatives of the backward classes from the Hindus to have claimed special representation for themselves. If their point of view have been accepted, the total number of depressed classes would have swelled to enormous proportions. But they received no support either from the untouchables or from the high caste Hindus. The Hindus were opposed to the move, which was calculated to increase the population of the depressed classes. The untouchables did not want to be included in their category any class of people who were not really untouchable. The proper course for these backward communities was to have asked to make a division of touchable Hindus into advanced and backward and to claim separate representation for the backward. In that effort, the untouchables would have supported them. But they did not agree to this and persisted in being included among the depressed classes largely because they thought that this was easier for securing their object. But as the untouchables opposed the backward communities, they turned and joined the Hindus in denying the existence of the untouchables more vehemently than the Hindus. In this struggle between the touchables and untouchables, the latter did not get any support from the Mohammedans. It will be noticed that in the Punjab Provincial Franchise Committee, only one Mohammedan supported the representation of the untouchables in his assertion that there are in the Punjab communities which are treated as untouchables. The rest of the Mohammedan members of the committee did not join. In Bengal, the Hindu and the Mohammedan members of the Bengal Provincial Franchise Committee agreed not to express any view on the matter. It is rather strange that the Mohammedans should have kept mum. It was in their interest that the untouchables should be recognized as a separate political community. This separation between the touchables and the untouchables was to their benefit. Why did they not help the untouchables in this struggle for numbers? There were two reasons why the Mohammedans took this attitude. In the first place, the Mohammedans were asking for more than their population ratio of representation. They were asking for what in Indian political parlance is known as weightage. They knew that their weightage must involve a loss to the Hindus, and the only question was which section of the Hindus should bear the loss. The touchable Hindus would not mind the weightage if it could be granted without reducing their share. How to do this was the problem, and the only way out of it was to reduce the share of the untouchables. To reduce the share meant to reduce the population. This is one reason why the Mohammedans did not help the untouchables in this struggle for numbers. The second reason why the Mohammedans did not help in the untouchables was the fear of exposure by the Hindus. Although Islam is the one religion which can transcend race and color and unite diverse people into a compact brotherhood, yet Islam in India has not succeeded in uprooting caste from among the Indian Muslims. Caste feeling among the Muslims is not so virulent as amongst the Hindus, but the fact is that it exists. That this caste feeling among the Muslims leads to social degradation, a feature of the Muslim community in India, has been noticed by all those who have had an occasion to study the subject. The Census Commissioner from Bengal in his report says, the quotation is not recorded. These facts are quite well known to the Hindus and they are were quite prepared to side them against the Muslims if the Muslims went too far in helping the untouchables in the struggle for numbers, and thereby bringing about a diminution for the seats for caste Hindus in the legislature. The Mohammedans knew their own weak points. They did not wish to give an excuse to the Hindus to rake up the social divisions amongst the Muslims and thought that their interest would be best served by them taking a non-partisan attitude. The untouchables were thus left to fight for themselves and for their own numbers, but even they could not be depended upon to muster for the cause. When the Hindus found that they could not succeed in reducing the number of the untouchables, they tried to mislead them. They began telling the untouchables that government was making a list of the untouchable communities and it was wrong to have a community's name entered in such a list because it would perpetuate untouchability. Acting on this advice, many communities who were actually an untouchable community would send a petition saying that it was not classed as an untouchable and should not be listed. Much effort had to be made to induce such communities to withdraw such petitions by informing them that the real purpose was to estimate their numbers in order to fix their seats in the legislature. Fortunately for all, this struggle is now over and the controversy is closed, and the population of the untouchables can never be open to dispute. The untouchables are now statutorily defined. Who are untouchables is laid down by a schedule to the Government of India Act 1935, which describes them as the scheduled castes, but the struggle reveals a trait of Hindu character. If the untouchables make no noise, the Hindu feels no shame for their condition and is quite indifferent as to their numbers. Whether they are thousands or they are millions, he does not care to bother. But if the untouchables rise and ask for recognition, he is prepared to deny their existence, repudiate his responsibility, and refuse to share his power without feeling any compunction or remorse. The end.